Hey guys, it's Layla from Ignite, and this is my last video on context for T.S. Eliot. If you've watched the previous ones, we've looked at the interrelationship between World War I and how that implicates the writing of T.S. Eliot's poetry, in the sense that it connects to the exploration of psychoanalysis, how World War I implicates the subconscious and how that interest in the subconscious filters through his poetry. Today I'd like to look at modernity, which encapsulates the rise of modern life and experience, and how Eliot is somewhat ambivalent towards this idea, but at the same time has a lot of concerns about the implications of modern life, particularly on our inability to connect to individuals despite this bustle of modern life and experience. Okay, so just to flag, if you are a student studying the HSC, I will be connecting this contextual information to Module B, but if you're someone who's just interested in T.S. Eliot and the backdrop of his poetry, this is still highly relevant to you. As you know, if you have watched the previous videos, it's important to consider the context of Eliot because that contextual backdrop, the ways of thinking at the time, are deeply influencing what he exposes in his poetry in terms of his concerns during his context. But thinking more closely about modernity, I've got a picture up here to show you quite visually what life was like during the time of T.S. Eliot. You had buildings, urban landscapes that were being erected, and you could see that this increase in population and this increase in the modern landscape was quite anxiety-invoking for the individual. The development of the train line, the use of coal in industry had the effect of really darkening the modern landscape. The omnipresence of soot, the blackness of the roads had this implication that the world was dark. And you've placed that against the backdrop of war. You've got the experience of trauma and now a landscape that was, through the eyes of Eliot, being dirtied by urban mindset. And you can see the description of the urban landscape within his poetry, really critiquing the urban landscape. Having said that though, I said earlier on that there is an ambivalence in his poetry. He is in some ways optimistic about the possibility of what the urban landscape might bring in terms of connecting individuals, but we don't see any physical connection in his poetry. Rather, we see that the building of the urban landscape, the disparate ways that streets fail to connect, actually evoke on a contextual level the inability of the individual to connect with others. He sees the geographical landscape as in itself dismantling the ability for people to live together and connect on an emotional level. So what I'd like you to look for in the poetry is how the landscape, the construction of the landscape, delimits the individual's ability to connect with others, because in the ways that the streets follow on in a disconnected and disparate way, that also traces the disconnection of the population. So there's an interrelationship between the environment and the mindset of people during this context. So in this sense, while there was a development of industry and we see the development of buildings, there's a paradox associated with that. Because in Eliot's eyes, more than benefiting society, the development of the urban landscape rather disconnected the individuals and failed to bring them together. So while there was an absolute increase in the population during the time, he saw people as cramped together in this uncomfortable environment and unable to actually physically connect. So what we see within his poetry is this interception between the environment and the mind of the individual, how psychoanalysis, the subconscious, feeds into the description of the landscape, and there is a marriage between the external world and the internal insecurities of Eliot's personas. I've got a quote which illustrates this. I want you to have a look at how the environment is being described quite sensorially in Preludes. It reads, "The winter evening settles down with smell of steaks in passageways, the burnt-out ends of smoky days, grimy scraps, withered leaves, newspapers from vacant lots, broken blinds." So we see in all of his poems really a persona on his own roaming through the landscape, and this often occurs at night time. The significance of this occurring at night is nightfall, and darkness is quite symbolic for that foreboding force of death. And the only places in his poems where light is dispersed is often alongside memory, so how light tries to bring back memories of the past being prior to modernity, which was for him a better state of living, and also how the light signifies the inevitability of death. You'll recall the beating of the fatalistic drum, which is a motif in his poetry. The point that I'm trying to convey here is it's within this grimy urban landscape. It's described as dirty, as corrupted, and as disconnected. And it's within this landscape that not only do we see a lack of connection, but how this external world awakens within the persona a fear of life and an inevitability of death. So take note of how the rise of modernity, the implications of the modern landscape, are evoked in his poetry through the imagery, the senses and the tones that they convey, and how they awaken the insecurities of the persona, and how it's within this environment that not only is he unable to connect with others, but rather his mind is turned to the inevitability of his mortality, which means death as the end of his existence. I hope that you guys have liked this video and you can see the interrelationship between the three contextual frameworks we've gone through. World War I invoking trauma, inevitability of death, psychoanalysis bringing out to the fore the subconscious of the mind, previous traumas and how they manifest in the present, and finally the urban landscape and how the grimy nature of the external world awakens all of the fears of the individual, and it manifests in the form of isolation, an inability to connect because of this disparate landscape. If you enjoyed this video, guys, please do like and subscribe to our channel. We'll have more content coming your way, but for now, thank you so much for watching. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching once again. If you are enjoying our content, and we hope you are, please do like and subscribe to our channel, and of course, share with your friends.
That's right, guys, thanks for watching, but please do make sure you check out our very special resources. They're quite unique. We've made a whole bunch of state rank practical guides for all your English texts out there. So check out the link now at ignitehsc.com.au. Let us know what you think. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next video.